yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation is about opening up perspectives and prerequisites for low energy life. I'll talk about what kind of a new mindset is needed for achieving energy efficient communities. Koska olen tulevaisuuden tutkimuksen professori.
Since I am a professor of future research, I must emphasize the importance of future and the importance of predicting the continuous change of the operating environment. I will also talk about the climate change as a driver for low energy life. I will take up some examples from different parts of the world, and we'll also discuss the possibilities to create a sustainable and a creative society. And could we perhaps see the emerging of a new low energy life, low carbon life, by introducing new thinking into the economy? Perceiving the changes in the operational environment is an absolute necessity as we aim for a low energy life, but we must do this observing on a very broad scale. Just like the human eye has peripheral vision, we too should apply peripheral vision when we look at the world, the operational environment. We mustn't only focus on those aspects which are directly linked to energy issues. Once we have observed the different changes, we must stop and analyze the effects of the interconnections between different issues and consider the possible effects, quantitative and qualitative effects, from the point of view of welfare, for example. And the third stage involves the understanding of these changes. This is a very important challenge. How are we to interpret these effects? Seneca, the philosopher Seneca, said already 2,000 years ago how important it is to think about future and to have a vision, to create a vision. He said that no wind is favorable for the man who doesn't know where he's headed. In other words, we must have an aim, a target, but on the other hand, action without a vision is purposeless. So in that sense, the theme of this seminar, From Words to Action, is at the very core of this thinking. Well, could we then set the vision for Finland as becoming a low-carbon society, or as a society enabling low-energy life? Climate change at the moment is a global driver for low-energy life. We are at a crucial turning point and facing one of the great challenges of our era. In order to meet this challenge, we need various different measures, a very systematic approach, but also a wide repertoire of different means and methods, and the evolving of various different actors and stakeholders in this joint project of ours in combating climate change. And we have to seek for solutions to adapting the changing environment. Innovation has already been called for, but we must keep in mind that in addition to technological innovation, we also need social innovation. Where is the society headed in general? We've talked about the information society. We've lived in an information society for a number of years in Finland and elsewhere in the developed world, but the society is now becoming more and more an experience society. People are consuming services and products, but they are also seeking experiences. The Danish researcher Jensen first introduced this idea of an experience society. How does this go together with our objective of a low energy life? Is this a concurring parallel driver, or are there conflicting elements between these two? I would say that we are now in a stage in the development of our society where on the one hand we have the demands of sustainable development, climate change. It's a huge cloud that we must consider in everything we do. Another megatrend is the experience society. trying to reconcile these two will be the crucial question of our future. Climate change, as we've heard from the previous speakers, is a challenge. It's also something we are forced to deal with. It's also an opportunity for businesses, but I would say that it's also a genuine opportunity. In addition to business opportunities, it also provides us with possibilities to adopt a new mindset and a new way of operating. This is where the great opportunities lie. We must leave the familiar path, and we must open our minds to new trends, new opportunities. Now, in this turning point, we have the possibility to reconsider the logic behind our actions. So a social, profound innovation or insight could be that we finally understand that human beings are fundamentally a part of their environment. We also contribute to our environment, we help shape it, but we are also inside that environment, living in it as part of it. If we have low energy life and a low carbon society as our goal, I would like to take up a comparison where we all have to strive for a common goal, and here the role of the general public and the media is significant. When I listen to the measures that have been implemented in Sweden, for example, I could say that the thinking in Finland seems to be somewhat different. Households, consumers are interested in this, they're willing to do something. There's some research also that's been carried out, but how can an ordinary citizen compare the different heating solutions or various energy efficient options? That is still a problem. In Sitra's program, there's the energy efficiency of companies and industries and the everyday life of citizens. I think it's very good to emphasize the need also to define solutions for citizens. Many things are now taking place in Finland. There's a national climate strategy that is worked on at the moment. There is the foresight report of the government on energy and climate policy and many other things. What then are the means and methods of a low energy life? We talk about conserving energy and natural resources, increasing energy efficiency and eco-efficiency, the better utilization of renewable forms of energy. I would like to include in this new mindset, this new way of thinking, the concept of energy sufficiency. So instead of talking only about energy efficiency, we should also talk about energy sufficiency. It's a concrete, detailed example could be the level of indoor temperature in homes. If you bring down the temperature indoors by 1 degree, that would amount to considerable savings in energy. So sometimes it doesn't take huge steps to acquire changes. I also use the concept of the Bermuda Triangle of urban planning. There are many different variables here: living, work, free time, combined by transportation, moving between these different parts is sort of the glue in this triangle. It can take place in different forms, be even virtual. And in this process, within this triangle, we use different services. And of course, then the effects of this Bermuda Triangle are determined by how we move between these different edges of the triangle, what means of transportation we use. We also talk about eco-cities and eco-communities. There are eco-villages in Finland as well, even an eco-province in Finland. In China, eco-cities are planned at the moment. In this context, we should also also consider whether we could also adopt a more holistic approach to developing societies and cities so that they would become more energy efficient and sustainable, and also define ways of measuring this efficiency in cities and for citizens, as for example in the form of the ecological footprint. Some of the previous speakers talked about eco-efficient houses, and we heard some figures on how much could be saved if we were to construct all new builds as eco-efficient. We can also use the terms passive energy houses, where the warmth, heat generated by the occupants and equipment is enough to provide the heat needed. There are zero energy houses where no external energy is needed. I've also talked about active energy houses, where the house produces more energy than it actually consumes. Through the experience society, we also see a more diversified concepts for living. People look for individual solutions in housing. They want to express their own way of life, their roles, their identities. What does this mean in practice? For example, within a year, do we live in many different places? Does it mean that we are living in various different locations? How do we move between these places? One very interesting concept is the new trend of slow housing, where in fact people go back to the basic function of housing, where people seek welfare in a slow, peaceful, calm environment, and in this particular concept, the environment, the living environment is emphasized. This is very closely linked to the life cycle thinking. If we are building solutions which are environmentally sensitive, it means that we are witnessing also a reduction in the operating costs, and we should emphasize the savings that are incurred for the occupants if they are living in these low energy houses. Then bringing in new green elements, roof gardens, balconies, the growing of energy crops in cities. This is something that hasn't been emphasized very much. If people can get in touch with nature in cities, in their own dwellings, this might reduce the need for fragmenting our urban structures more when people no longer have to leave the city to get in touch with nature. How can we take this into consideration at the planning stage already? We can think about the natural conditions, wind conditions, when building. In Sweden, for example, cliffs and rocks have been utilized in a very innovative way when building houses. Self-sufficiency is one goal in building a future. We aim at empowering people. Houses must produce their own energy. They must be able to process their own waste and do this by consuming as little energy as possible. And we should also have more experimenting with fragmented community planning. Green infrastructure is also an expanding concept. There are huge parks in some of the major cities of the world. It's not merely a factor that contributes to the well-being of citizens. It's also important environmentally, because these parks act as carbon sinks, and also it's been shown by research that if people have contact with nature in cities, it improves their health and well-being. In Paris, we've seen experimenting with green buildings where roof and wall structures are embedded with plants. A new paradigm for technology is to mimic nature, to utilize the innovative solutions seen in nature. German engineers who are responsible for developing many major inventions globally, in the 1940s, a German engineer tried to shake some tools from his clothes and actually invented Velcro in the process. The hooks of the plant were imitated in Velcro, and the first practical applications were in fact used by NASA in the gloves used by astronauts. We can also see energy savings when using innovative design. For example, here is a picture of the yellow boxfish, and the yellow boxfish aerodynamic design was mimicked in the design of this car. This car only uses 3 liters of petrol. We can also look for models to gather water. This is an Australian lizard, only a few centimeters high. The body of the lizard has small ducts to absorb water, and this structure is used now by scientists to improve water gathering methods. This is a picture of the lotus flower. The lotus flower is water repellent, and it has been used to develop a paint with a water and dirt repelling structure. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology has developed a very special form of a treehouse, fab treehouse, employing modern technology and nature. This is a practical example from Tokyo, a building utilizing spheric design in very demanding wind conditions. In passive energy homes, insulation is decisive, but in earth architecture, which is particularly popular in the United States, we see earth being utilized as a material for insulation. In addition to these examples, we can take up different campaigns from Sweden, for example, the Lindås passive energy homes. At the moment, there is a competition on eco-cities going on in the UK. In Europe, there's the eco-capital competition that's been launched. So in different countries, decision makers should look at these new technologies. One of the new projects is a sustainable and creative society, where we are looking at the links between energy efficiency and housing. Germany is a pioneer in eco-villages, and one of the first bioenergy village in Germany was constructed in early 2000, and it was completed a few years ago. Here are some examples of how much energy savings were incurred, 750 euros per year. And the important thing, of course, is that the money saved stays in the area and supports employment there. The Mastar initiative, which is an initiative launched by the United Arab Emirates, they organized a World Future Energy Summit there and are aiming at a fully carbon-free society model. In Spain, solar energy is a natural renewable source of energy that is very much utilized nowadays. Here's an example of a tower with 624 movable mirrors to be able to maximally utilize solar energy available. In France, in downtown Paris, huge new building complexes are being planned. These buildings would be self-sufficient and would also utilize green areas within the structures. We can, of course, take this eco-village thinking very far. In England, in Wales, in fact, there's a project of an eco-village. This was very much opposed at the planning stage, but the village people were determined to take it through, and it is now being built. As regards the built environment, we mustn't forget transportation, of course. We perhaps shouldn't aim at completely eradicating private car traffic, but we should emphasize energy efficiency by emphasizing the use of better fuels, cleaner fuels, better fuel economy, public transport, pedestrian and bicycle transport, etc., etc. Another megatrend linked to energy questions is the aging population. Here is a car intended for the elderly, operating by using solar power. Here on the left, a Segway personal vehicle, which in Finland as of yet hasn't been defined as an official vehicle and it cannot be used on public streets. In Sweden, they have now introduced this excellent concept of energy advisors. People are usually very keen to have such personal coaches. Could we have some sort of personal eco-coaches as well? Values, lifestyles, these are issues that households will be focusing on more and more in the future. How do you live? Where do you live? In what sort of house do you live? How much energy can you save? How much energy efficiency can you achieve? These are key requirements for sustainable living.
So I think Sitra's energy program might be a very strong catalyst for introducing new ideas and concepts and putting them into practice in cooperation with companies, with government and with citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.
Kiitoksia, tohtori Sirkka Heinonen.
Thank you so much,
Aloitetaan
Professor Heinonen. Let's start with the questions. Is low energy objective relevant? Shouldn't we focus on using resources more effectively and efficiently in the field of heating, for example? Using resources more effectively. Well, we need everything. We need to save, we need to increase efficiency or effectiveness, new forms, and all together. Even at the moment, technology has developed and we have numerous technological solutions available. We have to develop new ones, but we have to take it as a portfolio, as a mosaic, and we have to select tools for using resources more sparingly and increasing energy efficiency at the same time. You talked about energy sufficiency. Are you aware of any research projects or experiments in that field, either in Finland or abroad? Yes, individual experiments do exist. But here, energy sufficiency, if we think about, for example, living, slow housing is an emerging trend. But also, real simple trend is emerging. People want a simplified way of living. And people want to increase the number of appliances they have in their households, but they want to live a more simple life. The necessity of simplicity is a virtue. That is a sort of a new emerging way of life, and that has brought about energy sufficiency also. How could we make an energy efficient way of life an experience, an attractive or appealing experience, that is? Now, here we come to the fact that people are individuals and we have individual needs and desires and wishes. But if we want to live a low-carbon life or approach an energy-efficient life consciously, these examples can serve to bring out new examples. For example, outdoors, moving, cycling in the nature, are naturally lower in emissions than taking your car and driving somewhere. The essential thing is to have comparison data. But we shouldn't blame people. We should make them feel guilty. You need the stick and the carrot to achieve solutions. It's more about being aware, creating an ecologically intelligent way of life. Awareness cannot be created out of nothing. If information is available, if we can compare alternatives and options, and if we can see examples around us, if we can see best practices, good examples around us, and if we can see that they can generate a good life and also a low-carbon way of life, then that is the way forward. Thank you, Mrs. Heinonen, for your very interesting presentation.